She had exactly $37 to her name, but she'd promised her niece the perfect birthday. So Amara drove across town to the cleanest, most beautiful park she could find, the kind where wealthy families brought their children. She never expected that one split-second decision to dive into a fountain would change everything. The little girl she pulled from the water wasn't just any child. She was the daughter of Luca Romano, the billionaire tech mogul who'd been a recluse since his wife's death. And when he showed up at her door that night, everything Amara thought she knew about her life was about to shatter. Before we dive into this life-changing story, please do me just a simple favor. Hit that like button. Your support helps YouTube push this story to more viewers just as amazing as you are. Also, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe before we proceed deep into this perfectly crafted story written just for you. Tap on the subscribe button below. We are all waiting on you to be part of this family. Now let's begin. The morning sun cast long shadows across Willowbrook Gardens, an immaculate park nestled in the heart of Beverly Hills' most exclusive neighborhood. Manicured lawns stretched like green velvet, punctuated by marble fountains and playground equipment that looked more like art installations than places for children to play. Amara Washington pulled her 10-year-old Honda into a parking spot, hands trembling slightly as she turned off the engine. "Are we really allowed to be here, Auntie Mara?" 6-year-old Nia pressed her nose against the window, eyes wide with wonder. Her birthday dress, a pink sundress from Target that Amara had saved 3 weeks to buy, seemed to glow in the morning light. Amara turned to face her niece, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her tired eyes. "Of course we are, baby girl. It's a public park. Besides, it's your birthday and you deserve to play somewhere beautiful." The truth was more complicated. Amara had been unemployed for 6 weeks after being wrongfully terminated from her job at a marketing agency. The accusation of attitude problems had been thinly veiled discrimination, but she couldn't afford a lawyer to fight it. With her sister gone 2 years now, Nia was all she had left in the world, and Amara was determined to give her the childhood she deserved, even if it meant stretching every dollar until it screamed. They walked hand in hand toward the playground, Amara's worn sneakers silent against the pristine walkways. Around them, nannies in crisp uniforms pushed children in designer clothes on swings that probably cost more than Amara's monthly rent. She felt the familiar sting of not belonging, but Nia's delighted laughter as she spotted the towering slide made it worth every uncomfortable stare. "Can I go on the big slide, Auntie Mara? Please?" "Go ahead, sweetheart. I'll be right here watching." Amara settled onto a bench, pulling her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. She watched Nia race toward the playground equipment, her joy infectious despite the circumstances. At least here, surrounded by beauty and possibility, her niece could forget for a moment that they lived in a cramped one-bedroom apartment where the heat sometimes didn't work. The peaceful morning was shattered by a piercing scream. Amara's head snapped toward the sound. Near the large decorative fountain at the center of the park, a small figure was thrashing in the water. A little girl, maybe 4 years old, had somehow fallen in and was struggling to stay afloat. The fountain was deeper than it appeared, and the child's head kept disappearing beneath the surface. Around the fountain, several adults stood frozen. A woman in an expensive tracksuit clutched her phone, filming rather than helping. 2 nannies pointed and whispered in shock. A jogger had stopped but seemed uncertain about ruining his designer running gear. Nobody moved. Amara didn't think. She ran. Her sneakers slapped against the marble as she sprinted toward the fountain, cardigan flying behind her. Without hesitation, she dove into the cold water, her jeans and t-shirt immediately soaking through. The little girl was heavier than expected, panic making her movements erratic. But Amara managed to wrap her arms around the child's waist and pull her toward the fountain's edge. "I've got you, sweetheart. You're okay. You're safe now." Strong hands reached down to help lift the child out. Amara boosted the little girl up first, then accepted help climbing out herself, water streaming from her clothes. The child was coughing but breathing, her dark eyes wide with terror and gratitude. "Isabella! My God, Isabella!" A woman in a pristine white outfit rushed forward. The nanny, Amara realized, who had been distracted by her phone call and hadn't noticed her charge disappear. The little girl, Isabella, reached for Amara instead of her nanny, small arms wrapping around her wet neck. "You saved me," she whispered in accented English, her voice trembling. Amara held her close, not caring about the water or the stares from the gathering crowd. "You're brave, Isabella, so very brave." "Auntie Mara!" Nia had run over, eyes wide with concern and admiration. "You jumped in the water with all your clothes on." Despite everything, Amara laughed. "Sometimes that's what you have to do, baby girl." The nanny was speaking rapidly into her phone in what sounded like Italian, her voice pitched high with panic. Amara heard the words Romano and Isabella repeated several times. Around them, phones were out, recording the aftermath of the rescue. Amara felt a familiar discomfort at being the center of attention, especially looking like a drowned rat in front of people who probably spent more on their shoes than she made in a month. "Come on, Nia, let's go home so I can get changed." "Wait!" Isabella's small voice stopped her. "What's your name?" "Amara. And this is Nia." "Thank you, Amara. I won't forget." The drive home was quiet except for Nia's chatter about how her aunt was a hero. Amara's clothes squelched against the car seat, and she couldn't stop shivering, but Isabella's grateful smile replayed in her mind. She'd done the right thing, even if it meant her phone was probably ruined from the water damage. Their apartment felt smaller than usual after the spaciousness of the park. Amara showered quickly, changing into dry clothes while Nia played with her birthday present, a small art set that had taken Amara's last $20. They shared a simple dinner of spaghetti and marinara sauce, Nia chattering excitedly about the day's adventure. "Will we see Isabella again, Auntie Mara?" "Probably not, sweetheart. She lives in a different world than we do." "But you saved her. That makes you friends forever, right?" If only life were that simple, Amara thought. She tucked Nia into their shared bed, humming softly until her niece drifted off to sleep. Then she sat at their small kitchen table, sorting through bills and wondering how she was going to make rent in 2 weeks. A sharp knock at the door made her jump. It was nearly 10 o'clock, too late for visitors in their neighborhood. Amara peered through the peephole and saw 2 men in expensive suits standing in the hallway. Her heart rate spiked. This couldn't be good. "Amara Washington?" The taller man spoke with a slight Italian accent when she cracked the door open, keeping the chain lock engaged. "Who's asking?" "My name is Marco. I work for Mr. Luca Romano. He would like to speak with you about this afternoon." Amara's stomach dropped. Romano. She'd heard the nanny say that name. "I don't know what you're talking about." The shorter man held up a tablet, and Amara saw herself on the screen, diving into the fountain. The video had already been viewed thousands of times, with headlines like "Mystery Woman Saves Drowning Child While Others Watch" and "The Hero We All Need." "Mr. Romano is very grateful for what you did for his daughter. He'd like to thank you personally." "That's not necessary. I just did what anyone would do." Marco smiled gently. "That's exactly why he wants to meet you, Miss Washington. Not everyone would have acted as you did." Against her better judgment, Amara found herself in the back of a sleek black Mercedes 30 minutes later, having arranged for her neighbor Mrs. Chen to stay with Nia. The drive through the hills felt surreal, mansion after mansion perched on perfectly landscaped lots that probably cost more than most people made in a lifetime. The Romano estate was breathtaking, a modern masterpiece of glass and stone that seemed to grow from the hillside itself. Walls of windows offered views of the city lights twinkling below, and Amara felt desperately out of place in her bargain store jeans and thrift shop sweater. Marco led her through a foyer that could have housed her entire apartment, past rooms filled with art that belonged in museums. Everything was beautiful, tasteful, and utterly intimidating. "Mr. Romano is in his study," Marco said, stopping before double doors made of rich dark wood. The man who rose from behind an enormous desk was not what Amara had expected. Luca Romano was younger than she'd imagined, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair that looked like he'd been running his fingers through it, and intelligent brown eyes that seemed to see everything. He wore a simple white button-down shirt and dark slacks, but even casual clothes couldn't hide the power that radiated from him. Miss Washington, thank you for coming. His voice was deep, tinged with the same Italian accent she'd heard from Marco. Please sit. Amara perched on the edge of a leather chair that probably cost more than her car. Mr. Romano, I appreciate you having me here, but really, what I did today wasn't anything special. Any decent person would have called for help. You risked your own safety to save a child you'd never met. He moved around the desk, and Amara noticed the way he carried himself. Confident, but not arrogant. Purposeful without being aggressive. Isabella is everything to me. Since her mother died 2 years ago, she's been fragile. Today was the first time I've seen her smile in months. The grief in his voice was unmistakable, and Amara felt her defensive walls lower slightly. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. He was quiet for a moment, seeming to struggle with something. I've had my security team research you, Miss Washington. I know you're unemployed, raising your niece alone. I know you're facing financial difficulties. Heat flooded Amara's cheeks. I don't want your money, Mr. Romano. I didn't save Isabella for a reward. I did it because she needed help and I couldn't just stand there and watch. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe even respect. That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. He moved to a window overlooking the city, hands clasped behind his back. Isabella has been seeing therapists, child psychologists, specialists of every kind since her mother's death. None of them have been able to reach her the way you did in those few minutes at the fountain. I don't understand what you're asking me. He turned back to face her. I'm asking you to consider working with Isabella, not as a nanny, she has one of those, but as someone who can help her heal, someone who can teach her to trust the world again. Mr. Romano, I'm not qualified for that kind of work. I don't have a degree in psychology or... You have something more valuable than a degree. You have heart. Isabella responded to you in a way she hasn't responded to anyone since her mother died. His eyes searched her face. I'm offering you $50,000 for 3 months of work. Part-time, flexible schedule. Just spend time with her. Help her laugh again. $50,000. It was more money than Amara had ever seen in one place. It would solve all her immediate problems, give Nia the stability she deserved, buy them a real apartment with separate bedrooms. But something felt wrong about accepting such a massive amount. I can't take that much money for just spending time with a child. Then consider it payment for saving her life. Consider it payment for being the kind of person who dives into fountains without thinking about the consequences. His voice grew softer. Please, Miss Washington, Isabella needs someone like you. And I think perhaps you need this opportunity as well. Amara thought about Nia, about the bills piling up on their kitchen table, about the uncertainty that kept her awake at night. But mostly she thought about Isabella's small arms around her neck and the trust in those dark eyes. I'll try it for a month. But if I feel like I'm not helping her, or if she doesn't want me around, I'll leave. Luca Romano smiled, and it transformed his entire face. Deal. The next 3 weeks fell into a rhythm that surprised Amara with its naturalness. 3 days a week she would arrive at the Romano estate to find Isabella waiting for her, usually clutching a new drawing or eager to show her something she'd discovered in the sprawling gardens. Nia often came along, and the two girls formed an immediate bond despite their different backgrounds. Tell me about your mama, Isabella asked one afternoon as they sat beside the pool, feet dangling in the warm water. Amara's heart clenched. Isabella rarely mentioned her mother directly. What would you like to know, sweetheart? Was she beautiful like my mama? She was beautiful in her own way. She had eyes just like Nia's, and she laughed really loud, sometimes too loud for movie theaters. Amara smiled at the memory. She would have loved you, Isabella. She always said children were the best part of the world. Isabella was quiet for a long moment, studying the water. I miss my mama every day. That's okay. Missing someone means you loved them very much. Do you think she knows I'm learning to swim? I think she knows everything about you, and she's so proud of how brave you're becoming. Isabella leaned against Amara's shoulder, and they sat in comfortable silence, watching Nia perform elaborate cannonballs into the shallow end. Luca began joining them for these afternoon sessions, at first hovering anxiously on the periphery, then gradually relaxing as he saw his daughter opening up. Amara found herself looking forward to his appearances, drawn to the way he listened intently to Isabella's stories and the gentle way he corrected her English without making her feel self-conscious. "You're working magic with her," he said one evening as they watched the girls chase fireflies in the garden. "I haven't seen her this happy since before Maria died. She's a special little girl. She just needed someone to remind her it was safe to be happy again." "And what about you? Are you remembering that it's safe to be happy?" The question caught her off guard. She turned to study his profile in the fading light, noting the strong line of his jaw and the way his eyes crinkled when he was genuinely amused. "I'm not sure I ever knew it was safe to begin with." He faced her then, expression serious. "Everyone deserves happiness, Amara. Everyone deserves to be seen and valued for who they are." There was something in his voice that made her pulse quicken, a warmth that had nothing to do with the evening air. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine what it might be like to belong in this world, to be part of this beautiful, healing family. Then reality crashed back. "I should go. Nia has school tomorrow." But as she gathered their things, she couldn't shake the feeling that Luca Romano saw her in a way that no one ever had, not as someone to be pitied or helped, but as someone worthy of respect, and maybe something more. The fourth week brought an unexpected visitor. Amara was helping Isabella with a puzzle when Marco appeared in the playroom doorway, his usually calm expression strained. "Miss Washington, there's someone here to see you." The woman waiting in the formal living room was everything Amara was not. Tall, blonde, expensively dressed, with the kind of confidence that came from never having to worry about where the next meal was coming from. She looked Amara up and down with barely concealed disdain. "So you're the woman who's been filling my niece's head with inappropriate ideas." "I'm sorry, I don't think we've been introduced." "Vanessa Romano, Luca's sister-in-law." She moved closer, her perfume overwhelming in the large space. "Maria's sister, and Isabella's legal guardian if anything happens to Luca." Amara felt ice form in her stomach. "I see. I don't think you do. I've been watching you, Miss Washington. I know exactly what kind of woman you are. You see a wealthy widower with a vulnerable child and you swoop in to play the savior. It's a classic gold digger move." "That's not, isn't it? You've managed to insinuate yourself into my family with a very convenient rescue. Now you're here every day playing house with a man who's worth billions." Vanessa's smile was sharp as broken glass. "But I see through you, and I won't let you manipulate Isabella or use her to get to Luca." Heat flooded Amara's face. "I would never use a child for anything. I care about Isabella." "You care about what she can get you. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to resign from whatever arrangement you have with Luca, and you're going to disappear from our lives. Because if you don't, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of woman you really are." "And what kind of woman is that?" "The kind who abandons her responsibilities to play dress-up in a world where she doesn't belong. The kind who puts a child at risk by encouraging her to trust strangers. The kind who—" "That's enough." Luca's voice cut through the room like a blade. He stood in the doorway, face dark with anger. "Vanessa, I think you've said more than enough. Luca, I'm trying to protect you and Isabella from the woman who saved my daughter's life. From the person who's helped Isabella heal more in a month than she has in 2 years. He stepped into the room, and Amara could feel the controlled fury radiating from him. "I think you should leave." Vanessa's composure cracked slightly. "I'm filing for custody, Luca. I have connections, lawyers, evidence of your poor judgment. That woman is a bad influence on Isabella, and I won't stand by and watch you destroy Maria's daughter." She swept from the room, leaving behind a silence so thick Amara could barely breathe. She looked at Luca, seeing the pain and frustration in his eyes, and knew she couldn't be the cause of him losing his daughter. "I have to go," she whispered. "Amara, don't let her... She's right about one thing. I don't belong here." The words tasted like ash in her mouth. "Isabella deserves stability, not someone who brings chaos into her life." She started toward the door, but Luca caught her arm gently. "What about what Isabella wants? What about what you want?" For a moment she allowed herself to look at him, really look at him. At the man who had seen past her circumstances to the person underneath, who had trusted her with his most precious treasure, who made her feel like she could be more than she'd ever imagined. But Vanessa's words echoed in her mind, and she pulled free. I want her to be safe. And sometimes that means making the hard choice. Isabella was waiting in the foyer when Amara came downstairs with her purse. Where are you going, Amara? We didn't finish our puzzle. Amara knelt to Isabella's level, fighting to keep her voice steady. I have to go away for a while, sweetheart. But you'll come back, right, tomorrow? I don't think so, baby girl. Isabella's face crumpled. Did I do something wrong? No, you're perfect. You're the most wonderful little girl I've ever known. Amara pulled her into a fierce hug, breathing in her sweet shampoo scent. I need you to remember something, okay? You are so loved. Your daddy loves you more than anything in the world, and your mama is watching over you always. Don't go, Amara, please don't leave me. The desperate words nearly broke Amara's resolve, but she thought of Vanessa's threats, of custody battles and lawyers, and the damage that could be done to this precious child. She kissed Isabella's forehead and walked out the door, leaving behind one of the closest thing to a family she'd had since her sister died. The next 2 weeks were the longest of Amara's life. She threw herself into job hunting, landing a position at a small non-profit that paid barely enough to cover their basic expenses. Nia asked about Isabella daily, not understanding why they couldn't visit their new friends anymore. Amara deflected the questions, focusing on creating normalcy in their small apartment. But at night, alone in their shared bed while Nia slept, she allowed herself to grieve, not just for the job or the money she'd lost, but for the sense of belonging she'd found in Luca's house, for Isabella's laughter and trust, for the way Luca looked at her like she was something precious and rare. Mrs. Chen knocked on their door on a Tuesday evening, her weathered face creased with concern. There's a man outside asking for you. Fancy car, expensive suit. Should I tell him you're not home? Through the window, Amara could see the familiar black Mercedes parked on their street, drawing curious stares from neighbors. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she opened the door to find Luca Romano standing in the hallway, looking completely out of place in his tailored suit. We need to talk, he said without preamble. Mr. Romano, I told you, Isabella hasn't eaten in 3 days. She won't leave her room, won't speak to her nanny, won't even draw pictures anymore. His voice was raw with exhaustion and fear. She keeps asking when you're coming home. Home. The word hit Amara like a physical blow. I can't. She's getting sick again, Amara. The doctors say it's stress, that she's retreating back into herself. She's asking for you constantly. What about Vanessa? The custody battle? Let me worry about Vanessa. He stepped closer, and she could see the dark circles under his eyes, the lines of strain around his mouth. I made a mistake letting you walk away. I was so worried about protecting Isabella from potential hurt that I didn't fight for the person who was actually helping her heal. I'm not the right person for this, Luca. Vanessa was right about that. I don't know how to navigate your world, how to protect Isabella from the kind of people who would use her to get to you. Then learn. With me. As my partner, not my employee. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and terror. What are you saying? I'm saying I fell in love with you, Amara Washington, not because you saved my daughter, though I'll be grateful for that for the rest of my life, but because you're brave and kind and real in a way that no one else in my world is, because you make Isabella laugh and you make me remember what it feels like to hope for the future. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. Luca, I'm saying I want you to come home, not as Isabella's therapist or companion, but as part of our family. All of us. You, me, Isabella, and Nia if she wants to come. Auntie Mara, Nia's sleepy voice made them both turn. She stood in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Is that Isabella's daddy? Luca knelt to Nia's level, his voice gentle. Hello, Nia. I'm Luca. Isabella misses you very much. I miss her too. Can we go see her? Amara looked between them, this powerful man kneeling on her apartment floor talking softly to her niece, offering them both a life she'd never dared to dream of. The safe choice would be to say no, to protect them all from the complications that would come with stepping into his world permanently. But Isabella's face flashed in her mind, the trust in her dark eyes, the way she'd clung to Amara that last day, and she realized that sometimes the safe choice wasn't the right choice. "Yes," she whispered. "We can go see her." The drive to the Romano estate felt different this time. Nia chatted excitedly in the back seat, and Luca's hand found Amara's, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. When they pulled through the gates, Isabella was waiting on the front steps in her pajamas, having somehow convinced Marco to let her stay up past her bedtime. "Amara!" She flew down the steps and launched herself into Amara's arms with such force that they both nearly toppled over. "You came back. Daddy said you might not, but I knew you would. I'm sorry I left, baby girl. I was scared, but I should have been braver. Like when you jumped in the fountain?" "Exactly like that." Isabella pulled back to look at her seriously. "Are you going to stay this time? Forever and ever?" Amara glanced at Luca, who was watching them with an expression of such love and hope that her remaining walls crumbled completely. "If your daddy wants us to stay, then yes, forever and ever." 6 months later, Amara stood in the same park where everything had begun, watching Isabella and Nia race each other to the big slide. The fountain sparkled in the afternoon sun, and she no longer felt like an intruder in this beautiful space. She belonged here now, not because of money or marriage, but because she'd learned to believe she deserved beautiful things. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Luca appeared beside her, offering her a cup of coffee made exactly the way she liked it. "Just thinking about how much has changed since that day I pulled Isabella out of the water." "Do you regret any of it? The chaos with Vanessa, the media attention, having to learn to navigate all of this?" He gestured toward the expensive cars and perfectly dressed families around them. Amara considered the question seriously. The custody battle with Vanessa had been brutal but brief. Isabella's own testimony about wanting to stay with her father and Amara had been heartbreakingly clear. The media attention when their relationship became public had been intense but manageable with the right team. And learning to move in Luca's world had been challenging but not impossible, especially with him as her guide and advocate. "I regret the time we lost being scared," she said finally, "but everything else brought us to this moment, so no, I don't regret any of it." "Good." He smiled, the expression lighting up his entire face. "Because I have something for you." From his pocket, he pulled a small velvet box. Amara's breath caught in her throat as he opened it to reveal a simple, elegant solitaire diamond that caught the afternoon light like a captured star. "Amara Washington, you dove into my life and turned everything upside down in the best possible way. You saved my daughter, but more than that, you saved both of us from lives of quiet sadness. Will you marry me?" Around them, the park seemed to hold its breath. The fountain bubbled gently, families played and laughed, and somewhere in the distance Isabella and Nia were calling for them to watch their synchronized slide descent. "Yes," Amara said, laughing as tears spilled down her cheeks. "Yes, absolutely yes." As Luca slipped the ring onto her finger, Isabella came running over with Nia close behind. "Did Daddy ask you the question?" Isabella demanded, bouncing on her toes with excitement. "He did, and I said yes." Both girls erupted in cheers, drawing amused glances from other park visitors. Isabella threw her arms around both adults, creating a group hug that felt like coming home. "Now we're really a family," Isabella declared with the authority of a 6-year-old who had waited long enough for her happy ending. "We always were," Amara said, kissing the top of her head. "We just needed time to find each other." Later that evening, after the girls had been tucked into bed, with promises of wedding planning and cake tasting, Amara stood on the terrace overlooking the city lights. The ring felt strange and wonderful on her finger, a tangible reminder that fairy tales could happen to ordinary people who were brave enough to dive in when it mattered. Luca joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind and resting his chin on her shoulder. "Thank you," he murmured against her ear, "for saying yes, for jumping in that fountain, for refusing to give up on Isabella when everyone else had, for teaching us both that love isn't something to be afraid of. Amara leaned back against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Thank you for seeing me, for seeing past everything I thought I was to everything I could become. You didn't become anything, love. You just finally let the world see who you always were. In the distance, the city sparkled like scattered diamonds, full of possibility and promise. Somewhere in those lights were other people facing impossible choices, other children needing heroes, other families waiting to be formed from the most unlikely circumstances. But here, in this moment, Amara had everything she'd ever dreamed of and more. A man who loved her completely, children who filled their home with laughter, and the knowledge that sometimes the most important thing you can do is jump in without knowing how deep the water is, because that's how you discover you know how to swim. Hello, beautiful family. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the power of one moment to change everything, then don't let this moment end here. Please take a second right now to hit that like button. It helps this story reach more hearts who need to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't already and tap the notification bell so you never miss the next emotional journey we share. And we want to hear from you. Would you have jumped into that fountain? Have you ever had a split-second decision change your entire life? Drop your answer in the comments below. We read every single one. If you believe love can find you in the most unexpected places, comment "Love finds a way." And most importantly, share this video with someone who needs a reminder that heroes aren't born. They're made in moments when ordinary people choose to do extraordinary things. This is Narrative Jar, where stories aren't just told, they're felt. Until next time, keep loving, keep hoping, and keep believing in second chances.